And thank you for everyone being here. I know it's late, it's been a long day, so it's great to have your energy, your attendance. I'm very pleased to be here and present you I would say it's more a concept at this stage. It's not really it's a very early stage concept that I really want to bring at this conference to open up since day one in the spirit of DAO operation and nouns operation to be very open source since day one and DAO native. And before we go into details, that's me in a few words. I'm father of a little thing, it's a little nightmare. Definitely what defined me, I'm someone who loves outdoor sports and extreme sports. That's why, I'm Alberto as a growth and operation expert and passionate, but also members NYAS DAO. You heard a lot about this strange group of people that love extreme sports today. And then you can find me on Twitter there if you want to talk more about DAO Source afterwards. You want to know more about NYAS DAO or nouns and everything. I'm very happy to connect afterwards. Today, even though I'm definitely representing NYAS as an individuals, but also I'm representing these two DAOs that are at the moment helping me to bring to life this concept that I'm presenting today, which is the DAO Secret Sauce. And one is Aaron DAO, and the other one is the Blocks. Both are DAO. They are essentially operating on trying to do research and tools about DAO to help them to work more efficiently, successfully. So as an incubator of research, the DAO Source was probably the best place to start. But what is the DAO Source? First, before to get into details, I want to give, for a lot of people, these are probably things they all know. Is more, if we look at key quantity metrics of where the DAO world is going, there are some numbers that are incredibly positive. It's mental to look at the fact that, today we have more than 4 active DAOs with 20 billions operating and fluctuating across DAOs. In terms of people contributing to the DAO industry, we move from 13,000 people to 1.6 million, estimated, which is a number that when you look at it, it's huge. And obviously, venture capital came in 2000 and funding all this organizations. So when we look at trends, when we look at where the DAO world is going, it's very easy to say, well, it's all positive, all great, things are growing, things are massive, and it's true. There are enormous, there are some signals that are telling us that things are definitely going the right direction. And then if we look at number of DAOs participation, and even though now things are slowing down, if you look at the average over the last 12 months, it's the level of participation it was definitely unexpected. Even 2 years ago, it's something that 2 years ago we were not even talking about. So it's all positive, but whenever we speak with people that love DAOs, love the system, we all say, oh, 99% people DAO will die. Okay, so we look at one side, the metrics, quantity metrics is all great, but then we look at the other side 99% of DAO will die. And probably the thing is, probably is true, probably is not true. Maybe the percentage will be lower, would be maybe higher, and I think that's not the point. It's I think what the DAO Source comes in is whatever is going to happen, if all the 99% DAOs will die, at this moment we don't have enough data that will tell us why. Okay, there's nothing that is telling us why DAOs are succeeding or failing, considering where each DAO is, what each DAO is representing, how much money a DAO has. So essentially, the DAO Source is nothing else that, a concept that we are cooking at the moment. Again, it's because it's a very early stage, but you can look at it as a tool, but essentially is a survey that we are creating to submit to everyone, to DAO operators, let's call it like that, to really capture qualitatively more, like understanding qualitatively where the DAO industry is, in taking into account like the key element of a DAO structure, a DAO operation, or the DAO, or any DAO life cycle, even though like at the moment it's even hard to define a DAO life cycle, okay? So to give you a practical example, I mean, one of my obsession is, whatever a successful DAO, the first trait that a successful DAO has to have is like it needs to have a clear purpose. First, this clear purpose has to define within the DAO. Also, the clear purpose has to be well understood within the DAO itself, and make it clear and make sure that everybody part of the DAO will follow that toward like a long-term objective. And I think at the moment there is nothing that is telling us if that is the case. There is nothing that qualitatively is capturing if all these 4,000 DAO that we looked before, how many of those actually they have a well-defined, defined purpose. What's the perception of people operating within the DAO in terms of their purpose? So this wants to be a tool that will to interview leaders and operators within the DAO industry, to then, in one hand, provide a picture externally of where the DAO industry is from a qualitative perspective, but it's also a tool that can be used internally for each DAO to essentially evaluate the secret sauce of your own DAO. So if you will go back on the question about the purpose and scoring how well is defined the purpose within your DAO, you can look at submitting that question to the core team, even though some DAOs don't like to have core team. But then compare that score against, so let's say 10 people of the core team, compare that score, the average, against the 90% of the DAO. And if there is a gap between the average score of the core team versus the rest of the DAO, clearly there is a misalignment between what the core team is doing or think the DAO is doing and what the rest of the DAO is perceiving. So it's also able have like a nano report. It will provide a qualitative direction to the people operating the DAO of what should be the priority for the next year, the next quarter. But if you want to simplify in terms of 3 assumptions that the DAO secret sauce want to start to try to validate, I think we thought that this could be the first 3 assumptions. Like so. The first one is that as the DAO evolves through this stage of development, each stage can be measured with specific milestone and threshold, right? So at the moment, we know we have 4,000 DAO. We know each DAO has more or less votes. We know that each DAO has more or less participation. But how can we compare that against the stage of development of the DAO? In a sense that at the beginning, a DAO will have less money, less participation, less people, but then we'll probably score higher on other elements. So it's about understanding where each DAO is, how each DAO should be run, or it's hard to say that, but it's wrong to say that, but define a benchmark of how the industry is moving in terms of its stage of development. Then the second assumption is there are different type of DAOs, like we know DAOs within DeFi, DAOs within NFT and everything else, and obviously each DAO will need to be each type of DAO will need to be seen separately. Like you will never be able to compare a DAO within an NFT project against a DAO within a DeFi project. So I think it's important to start define clear standards of how we analyze quantitative and qualitative each type of DAO based on essentially their final purpose. And the third assumption is that it's essentially the mission of the secret sauce is like if the secret sauce is successfully gathering these qualitative metrics, essentially the idea is that we'll provide a set of learnings that will create a benchmark, will create standards that anybody that wants to start a DAO tomorrow can refer to and then essentially learn from it and probably do a better job than anyone before. So that's probably the third assumption is our final mission. And then, as I would say, we are here to present this concept as an open concept, and we are just asking, anyone who wants to help can jump on board. Thank you very much.